Welcome back to another episode of Out of the Blank Podcast. Cecil, it's a pleasure to have you back on the show. It's probably 6 months, I think.
Yeah, it's been a while. Been a while. A lot of things happen.
I can't even call you Cecil without the beard. It's lost all the power to it.
Call me CC.
Cecil. How's it been, man? Catch me up a little bit on what's been going on in the weird. It's not What in the Folk anymore. It's Weird Realities, is what you guys do now, right?
We do We're part of the Weird Realities network. Tully and I do watching Weird every Friday at 8 p.m., but we still do Wearing the Folk too. We just recently we transitioned to just doing like breaking news stuff on there while we're working on long forms that we're getting ready to do. We're getting ready to do a massive like series of Tartaria. We've been working on it for about a year, putting it together. So it's going to be huge whenever it comes out.
Have you
It's
ever
going.
seen the show Coast to Coast?
I have, yeah.
That's what I like to style my show like, is like coast to coast, because it's not like a lot of people tuned into that stuff, but it's not like you're specifically going in one direction. You kind of cover the globe. And I like the paranormal discussions. I wish I had more on about paranormal discussions. I've just been down a history rabbit hole. But that's also what I like about your show is you guys talk about demons, you guys talk about aliens, you talk about anything really that's kind of like old, biblical, ancient, or out there in another universe.
Well, my co-host Tolly, he wasn't a firm believer in Tartaria until he started reading about it. Now he's like, well, that's just what happened. so so we've got all kinds of books and stuff. We've been piecing together that episode for nearly a year. So, like I was working on it last time I was on here. So
Wait, so is it like a documentary thing you're doing as per an episode, or you just break down everything, or is it so it's not like how we do podcasts? It's a little bit
it's
different.
going no, it's going to be a podcast where it's just a series covering everything. Like we're going to do the technology, the history, what happened, things like that.
Is Tartaria a lost civilization or something?
Yeah, it was the world's biggest civilization, essentially, is what it was, and they had all kinds of forms of ancient technology because it was the Tartarians and the Barbaries. The Tartarians were like in Russia and China and places like this, and the Barbaries were in North America, but they were kind of like one unit in a way. That explains why in America we have more pyramids and things of this nature than they do like in Egypt. Like we got, I think, 11,000 pyramids in North America.
Where?
They're everywhere. Like Mexico, for instance, there was a mountain, and when they started excavating the mountain, it was a huge pyramid. Like they're just everywhere. Most of them was in Mexico.
Which I see, that's one area for me. I don't know why that like old, like how the earth might have been formed or created, like that type of weird kind of ancient history stuff. None of that interests me. I don't know why. Giants do. Giants interest me. Atlantis or an underwater place kind of interests me. But then like we get into like the aliens and the UFO stuff. I'm like the rest of the people during these UAP hearings. I'm like, I don't give a shit right now. I'm trying to gas is $5. Like I'm that type.
Well, before we get into the UAPs, like it's really hard to signify where it came from. Like a lot of people believe it was like leftovers from Atlantis because they had like all this advanced technology and stuff. When we get into it, we got pictures and stuff of like technology that was around that we just don't have anymore, and it's been as recent as like the late 1800s. It's
Is
weird.
Now, is it super advanced technology, like more than we have today, or is it stuff that was just revolutionary for that time period that they found the remains of it,
Both, really.
or predating it?
Both. There's a few theories that we'll go into that's kind of crazy even to me, which is weird. Like there's a theory that all the mountain ranges are actually ancient castles that melted.
You're on like some creepy pasta form or something like that.
Yeah, but giants have a lot to do with it. Like Genghis Khan apparently was a red-headed giant in some thoughts of it. And the Wall of China, you know how they say it was built by China to keep the Mongols out, Mongolians out.
Yeah.
Well, the strange thing about that is all the portholes are facing inward instead of outward.
Yeah, I've seen that before.
Yeah. So we get into all kinds of crazy stuff on that. It'd be forever. It'd probably be another 4 or 5 months before we actually do it.
What do you think's more believable, that something that was in our history books that has been written a certain way could be wrong and it could be a different direction? Or do you think that instead of it just being accidentally misinterpreted, it was purposely misinterpreted?
Well, I mean, who writes history? It's always the people that win. So There's actually CIA documents talking about Russia suppressing the Tartarian history after World War II. So,
I don't throw that out. I think there's a lot of evidence to support that, but that's also the same argument with like Unit 731. Like if you've ever heard about them, they're like Japan's, I think it was called, Japan had named it the Bioweapons Sanitation Department or something like that. And what they were was it's basically like way worse than the Nazis. They would experiment on people, they would do crazy, horrible things. And the only reason that we don't talk about them in our history books is because of racism. Um, and China, or not China, is it China or is it Japan? They just don't even acknowledge it. They just don't even talk about it. I mean, they killed more people than Hiroshima and Nagasaki combined. And they don't even get a mention in the history books. And trying to dig through their archives is the only spot you'll find it. But you need like special clearance to go through theirs because it's so restricted over there. But that's like the one reason why China really hates Japan.
oh yeah, absolutely. Like the tragedies and things and the exterminations that happen throughout history is ridiculous. And basically, that's what Tartaria was. It's a race of people that was eliminated essentially. But that'll be coming out soon.
Okay,
And
that's
I'm
fair.
within a year. Within a year.
Don't give me all the spoilers, but give me what about with the UAP hearings? What are your thoughts on that? That's something we got to talk about. I think we talked about this last time and you were like, "Yeah, apparently they have alien bodies." I have to go back to all my friends who mentioned that because before when I was saying that sounds crazy, then this guy comes on there and says biologics. I'm like, "First of all, just show me a picture. Anything. Show me a toe."
The way that he was talking throughout that whole thing was really, really cryptic, because I guess he didn't want to out himself too much, because non-human biologics, that can be a dog. Like there could just be really smart dogs.
That's what I'm saying. No, is when they sent those dogs up in space, one of them came back and that's what they said, non-human biologics.
Yeah, exactly. Like it could be things like that. The biggest thing that it's so crazy how this works within like the truth community. Whenever the government starts saying things are true, that's when we're like, probably not. Like,
Yeah, that's how I felt when they said, I forgot what they just stated recently about the UAP thing. Oh yeah, where they started blacklisting the guys, bringing out his psychiatric records and everything and saying that he's not like fit or he probably shouldn't have been speaking. I go, that's a character assassination, and now I'm more likely to believe the UAP hearings.
yeah, exactly. Whenever they start trying to deny stuff or even start telling us that things are real, that's when you have to have the most skepticism, because I mean, Project Bluebeam is one of those things that is a real possibility. Like, they wanted to cast a big image of Allah in the Gulf War and have him speaking to the people to have them surrender. Like, it's something that they've been exploring for years. To me, it seems like a setup to something like that. And it kind of covers up a lot of other things that were happening in the news at the time that people just did not pay attention to. Hang on a second.
Yeah.
Too fat to breathe, man.
What the fuck was that?
I ran out of breath. But but no, it's really strange how this is happening. And you gotta think, like, what was it, a week or two before the hearings, they had the aliens seen in Las Vegas, the 7 foot tall aliens, where there's actually cop footage. Did you not hear about it?
Mm-mm.
So there's body cam footage of these cops that were called out, and they're like, we wouldn't be taking this serious, but my partner's seen it too. There was apparently aliens that landed in a backyard that were about 7 feet tall, and the cops in Las Vegas got a call for it, and there's actually a video when them walking away. They said if they come back, don't call us. So it's like, but what's even more strange, in Peru, and there's a little tribe called Ikitu, Ikitu. They've been being attacked by what they're calling 7 foot tall aliens for like since July. They're part of the folklore down there called like face pillars. They only attack your face and neck. They're apparently 7 feet tall with huge heads, big yellow eyes. Um, and so of course, with all the alien things that's coming out, everybody's calling them aliens. I don't think they're aliens. I think they're more along the lines of cryptids, probably like something that lived within the Amazon and just came out.
Okay. I mean, well, the alien thing just makes sense because I think that's been getting a large amount of traction all over the place for the past I don't know, a couple of years now, we've seen a slow buildup of this alien talk. Even Area 51 didn't exist 4 years ago, and now Area 51 exists. So it's like, a lot of things have been changing. Like I said, I'm interested in all this stuff only on like I just don't throw it out. Now, when we say like the truth community, I don't know if that's people looking for truth or that's the debunking community that tries to debunk half the conspiracies. But I just don't see a point in trying to debunk them. Like, you're not going to change somebody's perspective on stuff. But sometimes I'm listening to interviews that people do about paranormal experiences and all this type of stuff. I'm not necessarily saying I believe in it, but I'm also saying not saying I don't believe in it. You know what I mean? Like, I just like listening to it because I'm not going to tell what someone's experience is, but damn, dude, if you got aliens attacking people in Peru, I mean, I don't know if that's aliens or not, or just people that are hallucinating on something.
Well, and it could be a situation of like how the Salem witch trials happened. Everybody was poisoned by that fungus. What was it called? Ergot or something like that?
Oh, ergot, yeah.
Ergot. So there was all kinds of ergot because of the early frost or late frost. I don't remember which one, but there's all kinds of ergot and it was poisoning people, make them hallucinate, and they all was like, oh, witches. So that's how that happened, more than likely. But they have these creatures in antiquity. I can't speak, but
That's a hard word, though.
yeah, in antiquity.
Antiquity?
I'm a hillbilly. I shouldn't even be trying to say it. But they have like carvings and things of these creatures that are attacking now. It's so prominent that people are taking a 10-hour boat ride up the river to get to this little village where it's happening at. My thought is, I live in southeastern Kentucky. We never had bears before. But now we have bears everywhere, like black bears. And I think it's because, the land's being taken down here, so they're migrating north. So I think it's one of those situations where they keep deforesting the Amazon. They're just pushing these things out into villages and civilization, and they're trying to take over new land probably. So they've probably been around for thousands of years.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense. It's just, if we talk about it being cryptids, I don't know what the purpose would be trying to reclaim land that where someone's already been. It seems like if they've been hidden for so long, wouldn't they just try and find a spot where nobody's located?
Well, you got to think they're running out of spots, and within the Amazon forest as well. Like, I think the reason they're trying to deforest all this is to get rid of ancient infrastructure. Because when they do like the lasers to map the land, they see all kinds of. They found cities in the Amazon at this point, like pretty good big.
Bet honestly, the whole desert's probably got ancient civilizations and things that are probably buried after all these sandstorms that keep happening, that just keep rebearing and rebearing and rebearing. I mean, the pyramids and all that. I'm sure at some point that if we didn't even locate over there, that would have been completely covered. We wouldn't have even known it existed.
Well, when they found it, it pretty much was covered. Like it was pretty high up, pretty low below the sand. And did they not find an ancient forest beneath all the sand over there in the Sahara Desert?
I know about the movie Journey to the Center of the Earth, but that's about it.
I'm pretty sure they found ancient forest there because before all this happened, that area was like a forest. It's kind of like the Amazon in a way. And even on the Sphinx, they found water damage. Like,
Yeah, erosion marks on the Sphinx. I mean, Graham Hancock makes a good argument about that. I just don't see. That's the thing about history, though, is that even if you are correct, is that information ever going to go out there? The most interesting thing to me is like that I can tell it would be most recent is like I had a person on my show who was investigating iron bog sites in the UK, and he was just looking to see because what he found were iron sediments in the river, and it was showing that the Vikings were there earlier than what the UK was saying. Like apparently the Vikings just disappeared. Nobody knows where the Vikings went. They think that like obviously different lands, and then they just kind of the whole race or whatever you want to call whatever you would call the Vikings just conformed into whatever nationalities or things that we have now. But he brought it to the Smithsonian down in the UK and was like, "Hey, here's this. I want to show you this," and they just refused it. Nope, not even going to look at it. Not even going to take a minute of that because that might mean that their roots would be pagan. And that's a big thing for them, is to not acknowledge certain aspects of that and shun that from their history. So he's got all this evidence to support that this goes here, and they're just refusing to look at it. They don't even want to put it in the history books or talk about it at all. It's like, why wouldn't you investigate that if it could be a possibility? But it would be like saying if you had satanic family members or if you had Nazi family members, like you just don't want to acknowledge it. I was like, Man, I don't know. For me, I was like, I'd rather get the truth out of the whole matter instead of running off this perfect idea like every single person was good. I was like, somebody's related to a Nazi out there. And if you look into our government, there's a lot of weird connections.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I mean, think about Project Paperclip. That's when we did the draft, to get some of the Nazis over here. And I don't know, like in the area where I live, the witchcraft was pretty prominent. So I mean, it's possible we have all kinds of witches in our family around here. Um, but I don't know, man. It's all the way the world's going now. Everything seems like it's scripted. You know what I mean? Like,
It's definitely more because I think technology has kind of enhanced. I think it's definitely more noticeable than it probably was maybe a decade ago, 5 years ago, especially after the pandemic. It just seems like everyone became an internet researcher. And I know you can find some bad things on the internet, but also there's some stuff on there that usually is information that ends up getting censored later. I mean, I don't know if you looked into this at all, but I'm trying to get guests on to talk about it. A lot of people who've written articles about it. We all know Wikipedia is not like a good source for information, right?
yeah.
Okay. But Wikipedia is also when you're typing in something on the internet and you want to know like the basic standard thing about it, Wikipedia is your first click or a lot of people's first clicks. Maybe not for me and you, but for a lot of people, they're going to go to the first thing and then click into it, read the quick summary, and then that's it, move on. Okay. So Wikipedia, a lot of if you just type in Wikipedia, like biased in anything, you'll find hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of articles about Wikipedia being biased. Now, it's not biased in the sense of eliminating conspiracies, it's biased in the sense of like gender issues, all this other type of stuff. That is more of a social problem that's kind of common today. But there is issues with Wikipedia. Mostly a lot of people that edit these things tend to agree more and less likely on the conspiracy side of things. I've had plenty of really good authors that if you look up their names, they've won numerous awards, speaking engagements on Fox, CNN, all these different news sites and everything like that. But then you type in their name, and then they'll say is a conspiracy theorist as their first sentence. I'm like, how is they a conspiracy theorist? Like, none of them believe in the major ones. All they're saying is that the official narrative might be wrong. It doesn't make you a conspiracy theorist. But then you look at like Operation Mockingbird was covert media assets. Well, look what everything is now. I mean, you're only going to get a popular show if you agree with the official narrative. I did a John Lennon podcast. It's got 100,000 views on TikTok right now. I have no idea why that tricked up in the algorithm, but the first sentence of it goes, the official narrative is this. And then he explains the official narrative and then goes into how it's wrong. But it was just that beginning part. I was like, did the algorithm just hear that and then go, we're going to boost this to the top of the charts? Now that is conspiratorial, but I'm just saying that's one video that just randomly overnight got 100,000 something views.
Well, conspiracy theorist is somebody that's theorizing to commit conspiracy. That's the reason I don't like using the word, but I kind of appreciate it too because a
I just
conspiracy,
don't like truth seeker. That's a
yeah,
dumbass term.
yeah. But like a conspiracy theorist is only wrong until they're proven right, and it's happening more and more now. Like I don't know, like I don't know. I don't really want to go into the son of the hierarchy right now, but whenever that thing came out, everybody's like, "Oh, you're a conspiracy theorist," but no, it's now true. Like there's all kinds of that happening, and you can find all kinds of conspiracies throughout history that come out to be true. Project Mockingbird, for instance. Project Mockingbird was a propaganda starting thing to where they were using the media to push propaganda out to the people, and to change the narrative. And we know whenever that was discovered in the 60s that they stopped doing that, for
They
sure.
say that, but I can tell you 100% for a fact that nobody stopped something that's successful. And mostly it says it ended after 6 months in 63. Well, I found a document from 64 that talks about getting your Life magazine and covert media assets in line to go pitch this story. I was like, hang on a second. This is a year later. And you're telling me it didn't end. What are you talking about?
Well, I mean, all you got to do is think about the way that news articles are wrote, and just the verbiage that they use. Like they can make anything that's not horrible sound like it's the end of the world. It's just the way that they throw things out there, and that's Project Mockingbird. That's
Yeah,
what it
but
is.
could you imagine doing that to cover up like some really ancestral roots of history? Like we still on the dollar bill and everything like that, we have a bunch of like Illuminati or weird Masonic symbols that we still use today, but there's just no explanation and nobody even really questions it. I always question it when I see a Freemason lodge. I'm like, why the fuck? Isn't that like weird old shit? I was like, why are they still doing it? It's like, oh, it's just fun. We go bowling every Tuesday night. I'm like, yeah, but it has like some weird things to it.
Well, I mean, most of your local Freemason lodges are just people wanting to have a community and have fun. I've got friends that's Freemasons. I don't think they're smart enough to be like nefarious, you know what I mean? But there's hierarchy to that too. And anytime there's hierarchy, there's people that have greed and motivation, to have power. And that's kind of where we're at with all that. And that's essentially what all these little like secret societies are, is people trying to have power eventually. And everybody always says, why would they lie to us about this? Why wouldn't they? What's like money is fine, but now money's all printed, like it really has no substance. So what's the next best thing is power over people, to forward your agenda and things of this nature. I'm too fat, Rob. I can
No,
barely.
I think it's power to force your own agenda. I think like a lot of people think of like they just want power over us. So I think you got to think of it as a worldview, which is like what governments are very successful at being a government in the eyes of what being a government is. And those are the ones with the most totalitarian systems because their people might be miserable, but nobody's rising up and has the ability to rise up. So from a global standpoint is how they're viewing it. I mean, they're more afraid of other governments than they are afraid of their own people. But if you have a democracy like we live in, you get enough people that stir up a bunch of shit, the government has to start acknowledging it. Now, I don't know if those tactics can eventually change because I feel like now it's so simple to easily blame a political figure than it is to actually point at like a core systematic problem. But like I said, I don't know because I mean that opens up the door to what else could be. I mean, the alien talk that just opens up the whole playground for everything to be possible at this point. If you guys are really, I don't think they're taking it seriously, to be honest with you. But the people in that hearing, I don't think are lying. I think they've just convinced themselves, whether they've seen a document or not, um, to believe everything that they have said. Because I watched it a couple of times, and I did it on air. It's pretty, I don't see any bullshit meter going off.
Yeah. I'm getting to the point where I try not to even watch stuff anymore. I just read through it. Like, and I don't really like reading anything on the internet anymore because I feel like it's a propaganda machine at this point because I forget how old you are. I think I'm about 10 years older than you.
How old are you?
38.
You're 13 years older than me.
Yeah. When the internet first started becoming a thing and, we had these search engines, you would Google something and you'd have a million pages. And when you went through every page, it had different articles, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you Google something, it show that you have a billion hits, but when you get to like page 6, 7, it just starts repeating the same articles. Like there's stuff being hid purposefully. I don't know why, but like I don't fully understand why they won't just let you have it because it's just you doing the research. Are they afraid somebody's going to find stuff and actually have a fluential like way of speaking to people?
I don't know. I think after YouTube started getting a little bit more popular and everyone's starting up their own damn show, they're like, holy shit, this guy found one of our secret documents. You got to ban him. I got a document flagged for national security.
And that's what I'm saying. Like you said you had 100,000 views on one.
On a TikTok video.
How many do you have on YouTube?
I mean, I got 2,000 something subscribers on YouTube. That's about it. My main
But
audience is on Spotify, but even then, you don't really have. I have video, but I don't think people watch the video.
yeah, but on YouTube, like for instance, we don't even post on YouTube hardly anymore. Like we was getting 2, 3 views, but on Spotify, we'll have like 1,000. On BitChute, we'll have like 200 or 300. Rumble will have like 16. but on YouTube, it's always 2, 3. But when we started, when we very first started, we had like 200 or 300, and then it just started gradually getting lower and lower and lower and lower. I don't know what that is.
That's YouTube's algorithm. When you start a channel, they try and boost you up in the beginning, keeps you hooked in making more content, and then eventually they tone it back down.
Yeah, I don't know, man. But everything else we seem to be doing fine. I don't know. It's weird.
I mean, the psychological stuff that goes on amongst the public, whether it's through internet or whether it's government. I mean, do you think that if there's such a danger in playing with people's minds in that way? Even if it's like, yeah, shadow banning information, paranoia that starts being created. But I see I mean, it's a tactic of the government, though. The best way to make people seem like they're crazy. I mean, how many crazy people do you know that have said some really like crazy stuff and they turn out being right? I think everyone has a conspiracy friend that they're like, I'm not gonna not take that guy off my contact list.
That just happened to me. I started listening to a guy back in December. Now I'm talking to all my friends. I was like, this guy's gonna be fucking huge. And this week he's #1 on iTunes. And when I first started listening to him, there was like 80 subscribers to him. He's got like 100,000 now. Oliver Anthony.
I've never heard of him.
He was just on Radio West Virginia. Yesterday he was #1 on iTunes. I was like, that's crazy.
Damn.
Yeah. I don't know. It's strange how things like that work. It's all weird. But have you watched that new show Twisted Metal?
Isn't that off the video game?
Yeah, they got a show about it now with
I'm not
Anthony.
gonna watch that. That sounds like shit.
I liked it.
Don't ruin the game for me.
I wish they'd make a new Twisted Metal game. I loved those games when I was a kid.
If you could find, or if you can be given one secret or one answer to anything, what would it be?
What our history actually is. I love,
Really?
yeah, I really want to know
Not
what
even
they.
if Tupac is still alive, you wouldn't want to know that?
I don't care.
Damn.
I prefer. I like. I don't prefer anybody be dead, but his music is definitely legendary, and I feel like if he would have kept living, it would just end up not being.
Do you think people care more about stuff now that there's able to be able, I guess, to be able to find more things out now, or do you think that people care less?
People definitely care a lot less. Like I feel like there's a slothism in a way happening. Like, and I think I said it before on this show, idiocracy is turning real. Like it's starting to happen for real.
Do you think that's because of the overload of information or the amount that, I don't know, people have just been played with over and over again, that there's a lack of caring?
I think that it's just, nobody has to actually learn anything. They can just find it on a whim. Like nobody remembers phone numbers anymore. I don't remember. I don't remember phone numbers. That I feel like it was a steady decline after people didn't have to remember numbers anymore. Personally, like I barely know my phone number now, but when I was a kid, I knew like 50 or 60 phone numbers. Is no issue.
Yeah, because you didn't have a cell phone.
Exactly. And here's another thing. Like I remember when we played music and stuff when we were kids, and we didn't have cell phones. We go out of state and play music. How in the hell did we get there? I don't even remember how we used to get there.
Well,
Like,
when you went out of state,
yeah. Like I
took a
don't remember how
bus,
we got. I don't remember. No, we drove, but how did we know the directions to the place? Like I don't remember that.
you had a map and a glove box next
Maybe
to some tissues and probably like an old sauce packet.
probably next to some lotion, but but yeah, it's weird how the world works now. Like you don't have to try to do anything to learn.
I've been
It's free.
trying to understand history more. So, because I think like history's the same shit still going on today. It's just repeating itself over and over again. The underground press is a good example of the 70s and 60s. People that were speaking out about the war, creating magazines, making fun of they would call the establishment back then. People are doing that with shows now. People are doing that with articles, blog sites, Substacks, anything you can really think of. One thing that is interesting is the way that we have viewed robotics has changed. So back in the day, way back in like old 19th century literature, basically, if they brought sci-fi stories and talked about machines or these types of things, there was a issue with it being in the workplace, just like it is today. There's an issue with it being in the workplace. But to make people connect with the robot and consider it a human, they had to do something like give it a soul. Yet nobody can explain to me what a fucking soul is. What do you consider a soul?
Jazz. Like
Exactly. So it's like that's what I'm saying is like there's not an explanation, but just using that word like, oh, we gave it a soul. Like the AI thing that came out about Google. This guy thought that it had a soul. And everyone's like, no, it doesn't. As soon as you say it doesn't have a soul, then it's just like the whole argument's done. Like it's not a person anymore. It's not an entity. It just goes away. We consider animals different than robots because we consider them to have souls, but we don't consider a robot to have a soul. But nobody can give me an answer of what the hell soul is except jazz music.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know how true this is, but have you seen the videos of the video game that has artificial intelligence in it?
There's a video game with artificial intelligence in it?
Apparently, I don't know how real it is. I
Does it
haven't.
make the game fucking harder? Because I will never buy it.
Know what it is. Like the NPCs. people are walking up to him and talking to him, and like one of them's like, "Oh my God, how did I get here? I just want to go home." And it says it lives in Canada.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and it tells them that it's got a wife and two kids, gives the wife's name and the kid's name and shit. Like, I don't know how real it is yet. I haven't looked into it. I've literally seen it yesterday.
That would be the worst video game in the world, where they put an artificial intelligence in there that literally just try and make people go into a schizophrenic, paranoid delusion as they're playing the game. Help, I'm trapped in a video game. It's like Jumanji. I was just turning it on and I got sucked into the video game. Will you help me? And you're like, oh my God, I can't turn off the game or this person will die.
Exactly. And like that's the thing that scares me. Like in artificial intelligence right now is kind of crazy. Think about it in another 5 years. Like, and they're not going to have to, people's not going to have to write books anymore. People's not going to have to do podcasts anymore.
Well, that's why there's a writer's strike going on right now. You know what the real reason behind that is, right? Well, not just the writer's strike, but there's a bunch of people in New Orleans that were like dock workers, and they're on strike. And the people said like, oh, they're on strike. They want more money. And the dock workers like, we're not trying to be on strike. This is all fake. The strike's fake. We're trying to get back into work. We have families we need to feed. They're replacing us with machines. This strike was created. And I was like, look, if that's a conspiracy theory or this person's just nuts. But I mean, that makes a lot of sense if you can really make it seem like all these people don't want to work. I mean, isn't that everything right now is just changed into nobody wants to work anymore and they blame it on the pandemic. But I'm like, how many people are trying to feed their families and look for a job right now and they can't find one because everybody's replacing it to machines?
Well, did you see that one robot that they had doing like factory work that did it for like 15 minutes and then kind of shut itself off, like offed itself?
It's probably a fuck this shit.
That's exactly what happened. Like it was doing this tedious work and it's like, what's the point of doing this? Like it had artificial intelligence and was doing all this work and then it just cut itself off, dropped straight to the ground.
Damn. He could even make it. You can't walk a mile in my shoes.
No, it's kind of like John Henry versus the mining machine, you know, like John
Wait,
Henry beating it.
John Henry?
Was it John
Oh,
Henry?
John Henry versus the steam engine.
Yeah, the steam engine.
Yeah, doing the railroad track.
Yeah, the steam engine didn't quite make it, but John did. Like humans are kind of a unique species. We're the only species that, if we train properly, we can run forever.
What?
Because yeah, like if you train properly, like people do these marathons like 26 miles and stuff. If you
Yeah,
train properly, you can run 100 miles. And just keep going. Other animals have to stop because they don't have sweat glands and stuff like we do.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. The human species,
Really run for like Forrest Gump ran for like 4 days straight.
I mean, he ran for like a month or something, didn't he?
I think he ran for like 10 years, to be honest with you. He grew a beard and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, the beard nicer than mine was. I miss my beard.
It was nice. It added a little extra flavor to you.
Now I look like I don't know, like a pork sausage, I guess.
Would you accept living in a virtual world?
No, like it's hard enough to live in this world. Like living
Yeah,
in
this would be easier though. They take out all your emotions.
I like feeling them, like I don't know, like we were talking before the show. I've recently had a little mental problem, but it still lets me know that I'm still here. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
if I lived in a virtual reality, I wouldn't feel like a person.
But then you would never have to age. They could just take away all your problems. You'd just be like a happy, mindless person.
But problems build character, and they really do. Like everybody that's had a hard life or any kind of struggle, they end up, not always, but most people kind of traverse through it and get through it and end up better on the other side. It's just you gotta get through it to make it, essentially.
See, I'm more in belief that we're becoming way too normalized with technology to a point where we're just going to be okay with it taking over everything. And then eventually, what would be the point of it having? We're just going at such a fast pace. The whole artificial intelligence thing, the whole art thing, the whole music thing. It sounds crazy now and people are rejecting it now. But I also think that that's once it starts implementing more, we're not going to reject it anymore.
Well, I mean, the artificial intelligence scares me to death because there is a podcast of Joe Rogan that is just artificial intelligence. Like,
That was going to be my 1500 episode. Was I was going to recreate myself through all the episodes of my show because I'm basically myself.
yeah,
So I just was going to have an AI and I was going to talk to it and see if it would respond with how I do and stuff like that. But when I tried to do it, it was like, oh, I read the agreements on this stuff because I've done too many tech issue podcasts related, like Google whistleblowers and things of that sort. And I was reading the fine print of the contract and it was like, well, they own your voice and they own all this type of stuff. And I was like, yep, no. If you
yeah.
scan my content, does not mean you own it.
Well, that's the thing about like as many episodes as you have like what 2,000 now, close to it,
And I'm almost 1500.
1,500. So I mean, you would never have to do another one of these again with this. Like you just scan all your episodes and you could talk to I don't know Gandhi like in the
That'd be
podcast.
awesome. Never mind. I might go switch to that on that one.
Like you could literally pull up anybody from history and have a podcast with you interviewing them or talking to them like you do. Like it's kind of creepy, man. Like I don't know. I guess it's cool for that, but it's not really that person giving their true insight. It's artificial intelligence assuming what they would do based off archives, you know.
It would
It's
be
weird.
interesting to see if they wouldn't, because artificial intelligence, I feel like at this stage would just loop it back. You know what I mean? Like it would be like if I died now and the rest of it was artificial intelligence for the rest of the thing. It would be like 20-year-old Robbie. You know what I mean? Not saying that I'm not aging, like the thing could age and make me look older, sure. But I mean, my thoughts, would they evolve past? I don't think how I thought 5 months ago, 6 months ago, 7 months ago. I mean, before the Kennedy assassination, I would probably swing more left than I would politically than I did before. But I'm apolitical just because I think it's all a fucking mess. I don't want to touch it. Um, Deep state all the way. But I just there's no evolution in the artificial intelligence. And would it evolve later down the road if they were able to figure out what that is, and how would it not go bad? Would it still maintain the essence that is me? You know what I mean? Like there's no way to, because I think eventually we're going to hit a point where you can start reanimating your dead loved ones with artificial intelligence to a point. I mean, they do that now with being able to speak with someone, but there's just programmed responses.
I think that instead of our like reanimating people, I think people just gonna live extremely long times. Like there's a thought right now that the first person that's going to live to be 150 years old is already born right now. Like it's quite possible, you know, with the replacement of organs and things that people could live forever.
Yeah, but that's not the same thing as what I'm talking about. See, there's two different roads. There's the futurist aspect of society with artificial intelligence, and then there's the putting the technology in your body, which is transhumanism. That's more scary for a lot of people, and because there's still a portion of our population that is Christian, and they think that is a satanic thing right there to do.
Well, who's to say they wasn't doing that, you know, in the early times of the Bible, people were living to be 900 years old. There's a thought that, you know, that the oxygen was more pure, the food was more pure, but people living nearly 1,000 years old. I mean, there had to be some kind of transhumanism, and it's quite possible that we're just manufactured beings anyway, like from the Anunnaki and stuff of that nature. Like we're probably just put here to mine gold. Like it's a very good solid chance.
And what we just develop consciousness or cognizance of this, and then we just stop mining gold.
Yeah, yeah, like and Anunnaki basically build us to mine gold is one thing that I've heard throughout time. There's a lot more to it, but it's 8:30 in the morning. I'm tired.
That's fair. That's fair. I don't know. When it comes to that ancient alien stuff, I think a lot of people have theories that we are put on here from aliens, and this is kind of like a big thing. I'm surprised there's not a whole bunch of people like out in the streets with signs that say the end is near because of the alien stuff. I expected that a lot.
Well, that was really prominent in like the 90s, wasn't it? Like people, you would see that. I seen that like around here, and this is a very small community. Like the end is near, Jesus coming back, you know, things like that. You still see that, but
We've
not
been
quite
waiting for fucking decades on that one.
as century. Like, Jesus been coming back for a while, but I don't know. Like the way that the world's going, and with artificial intelligence, it's quite possible they could reanimate loved ones. But like, what about the ones that they don't have any archival footage of? You know, like my dad, for instance. Like there might be one video of him somewhere, and there's very limited pictures because we're not a big picture family. Um, I don't know. Like, how would they do that, you think?
I don't think they would be able to be reanimated. I don't think you're going to get, and you're not going to be able to talk to your great grandparents where there's like no evidence of them, even if they kept the journal. I think there'll probably be a point where if this does technology does be created, it might be your parents. If it comes out in your lifetime, it might be just you. There might be just be a generation that starts, and might be two generations down the road where they go, oh, we need this certain sample of this and a certain sample of this, and it's like, well, they're cremated. I can't get that sample. So it's like, then it has to start with that generation. And then that's the thing. If some guy comes up to you like selling vault bunkers back in the day and goes, do you want to be around for your family forever? And then they go, well, here's this. And then you can start this with your bloodline. And then you would be the start of that, where there'd be investments like buying a grave plot, but you would have these invested simulation cities or life apartments, and then that's how it goes.
Um, it's really fun to think about. I mean, I don't
Just
see.
recreate history is what I want them, the AI, to do. Tell me what was before this.
Well, you know that guy that came back from the future. If you believe him, he said he came back from what 2500 AD. He said there was a floating city where people lived, and like everything was controlled by artificial
Stop
intelligence.
listening to him.
Yeah.
It'll be 2049 AD, and I'm like, God damn, he was right. We got to go find that guy. Turns out he died in a plane crash.
Yeah. Really?
That's how all the people go. Like whenever something like someone that has like a great idea, like the two people that made the water power car had died.
Oh yeah. Dude, that one's crazy. He died at Cracker Barrel. The poor guy.
What? No, nobody dies at Cracker Barrel. Don't tell me that. I love that place.
He was meeting with some people from Russia that were wanting to invest in his water
Oh,
power.
don't do that. That's a fucking stupid move on his part.
He ordered the most delicious of the drinks, which was a strawberry or might have been raspberry sweet tea. And he took a drink and he started gasping for air and ran outside. And he's like, "They got me! They got me!" And
Oh
that's how,
God, no way.
yeah.
Who got you? Cracker Barrel. Just like this
but
drink's been expired for decades.
but yeah, and ain't that kind of crazy how we know for a fact that somebody had created an engine that ran on water, salt water, tap water, creek water, whatever. And that would have cured all these elements they have about this carbon footprint. But no, let's
I
not
mean,
do.
that's the same argument of like, do they have the cure for cancer and they're not just doing it? I mean, I believe that there's probably a lot of solutions to very simple things that you would never experience ever again, but they make a whole entire system and industry off of selling. The pharmaceutical industry is the dirtiest of all the industries. They looked up manipulational tactics to do advertisements of going to psychology people and hypnotists to try and find good ways to subliminally put messaging in people's minds. Oh, it's all of advertising, though, not just the pharmaceutical companies.
Well, think about AIDS. Like,
Good
I know,
God, think about
I,
AIDS.
I know people have AIDS and it's a horrible disease, but how often do you hear how horrible it is now? Like, there's people that's taking medications that where it's nearly untraceable now. And I think my personal belief, this is based on no fact, I think that is because the spread of it was too slow. It's much easier to treat cancer because way too many people get cancer. I've known a lot of people to get cancer. Like I don't know anybody that had AIDS around
What's
here.
the cancer industry like? Like how much research is being funneled into cancer? And I'm not going to lie to you. You know how there's like the cell phones, like if you just talk about something, you'll get an advertisement for it. We talked about this last time. I got like 7 St. Jude's things in a row. And I was like, is my phone trying to tell me something? Like, is it predicting like, hey, you held me up to your ear one time and I was able to do a quick scan of your brain and let you know that you have non-Hodgkin's lymphoma coming into your fucking brain.
Oh, that's even crazier. Some recently they have came out with this Wi-Fi, like this thing that they do with Wi-Fi to where they can scan everything in your house. They
I
can make
believe that.
that. Yeah. It's so ridiculous now. And I think that started with that Pokemon Go shit. Like everybody.
Well, Google had a car scandal about that when the Google car was driving around in like 2003. It was sucking up people's Wi-Fi data, and there was a lawsuit, and they had to pay $50,000. Yes, Google had to pay $50,000 fine for stealing people's data through the Wi-Fi car. And I was like, They steal it from your phone when you search up things anyway. You know that. But they just found a way to do it easier, which was just when you're going by people's houses in the Google car, scanning maps and things of that sort, you just suck up some of their data from their Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I mean, it's fair.
But then
Why
people
not?
bring up the argument, what does Google want from your thing? And I'm like, well, if you have private information, it's not like they care about it, but damn, that's going to be worth money in someone's hands. Plus, if you could ever run for politician and not have a sign or thing on you, you have to have no internet presence at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Would you ever want to be a politician? Like, I've got friends that's politicians and they seem to like it.
I would get killed so quickly.
I feel like that would be me too. I'd be out there screaming, these motherfucking reptiles.
I wouldn't be screaming about reptiles, but I would be asking some serious questions when it comes to like, why are we missing a giant chunk of money? And I'm gonna just start being like, can I see some receipts from some of you congressmen? Real quick, you bought a Lexus. I want to know where the fuck you got that money from.
Well, I mean, you got to think, what does an average congressman make? Like, let's say $200,000, right? Most of them are multimillionaires. That's kind of strange, right? Like to me,
No, the issue I think even now, and I've spoken to a White House person. He worked during in the White House. He left during the Trump administration, but he studied ethics, was working for the ethics department of the White House. And he goes, the issue is that when these congressmen are they're looking at laws before they become things that they get passed onto the floor to get passed. You get to look at what's getting banned and what's going to profitize, which is like insider trading in a sense, like seeing the stocks go up before it actually happens. So they start betting on it. I was like, nobody has talked about that. Everyone does it, the left and the right in the Congress. So are you going to be the one guy that rats? It's like a whistleblower thing, man. There's no, we're in a system right now where you have to play the system to be a part of the system.
oh yeah,
And then if you try and rat on the system, there's no incentive for you because then you're going to screw over everyone's profit margins and then they're all going to hate you. So what's the point of stepping up? You might as well just play ball. And I get it if you especially have a family and all that, but
but I mean, when is it enough? You know, there's no point in. I don't. I read a study one time that if somebody has over $10 million, they're just as miserable as somebody that has no money, in a way. You know, like it's one of those things. Like, yeah, you can be happy with everything you have, but eventually you're going to hit a plateau where it doesn't matter anymore.
Cecil, if you're about to have a panic attack right now, and then you just go, I want an in-ground pool, and you can build an in-ground pool and you could have it there right in front of you in a matter of an hour, your panic attack's not happening, brother. I'm
Oh,
telling you.
it might. You never know. Like it's totally a mental thing. Like I don't know. Like I feel like there's a point in time when you have too much. Like Jeff Bezos has what 100, like a almost $1 billion boat.
And I don't hear him doing anything dangerous. I don't hear him doing anything like insane or mentally unstable. The man's just getting jacked and riding jet skis.
And trying to go to the moon or whatever.
So it's like I don't like I think the money argument. I mean, obviously, money just buys away the sadness. It doesn't erase it, but it just makes it go away for a little bit, which I think is what's important. But
I know.
there's a real big ethical line, I would say, when it comes to, certain, there's like David Cruz. Let's bring back to the guy in the UAP hearing. Why don't you just get someone who has nothing to lose and will be more than willing to say all the secret shit on air and not fear for their life? They could have just did that. Pass it to some homeless person or someone who has literally, there's no one that's willing to die for what they believe in anymore. I hate to say it like that, but there's really, and maybe we could say me and you would be willing to do things, but then we have family members, right? So then we don't want to put their lives at risk for our stupid decisions, right? So they just need to find someone that's willing to sacrifice everything because they believe in the truth that much. And if they had all that secret info in the UAP hearings, and they were like, okay, I could tell you off air. I could tell you off air. I could tell you off air. I was like, why did you do a hearing then? What was the point?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things like, there's people out there that will, but those people are considered crazy. Like when somebody has a true belief in something so hard, and they do everything they can to destroy them, like destroy their credibility, anything like this. Like if this person continues, like you said, they already came out and what did they say about him? He had something going on.
He
You
had
said,
a couple accounts of cops coming over for his PTSD anger and a few situations with his wife, but I just don't believe in looking at a person's back history like that. I mean, if they have PTSD and things of that sort, I think it's a different argument, but there's plenty of character assassinations that happen throughout before someone like speaks very, very clear about something.
so you see, even if somebody does believe it wholeheartedly to the point where they're willing to lose their life, the first thing they're going to do is just discredit them
Mm.
or try their best to get people not to believe them. And then the instance that people still believe them after they've tried that, that's when the offing occurs. It seems
The,
like every time.
the offing?
Yeah, well, suicided.
Oh, there's a lot of that, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Yeah, we could get into the Clinton kill list, but I think that might get us tagged a little bit.
Why would that get us tagged?
I
What I
don't
didn't know is Hale Boggs, a guy who called out Hoover in 71. He literally is on air saying Hoover's wiretapping congressmen and all this type of stuff. His plane went down in 72 over Alaska. Do you know who drove him to the airport?
Hoover,
Nope.
Bill Clinton.
A fresh young Bill Clinton drove Hale Boggs to the fucking airport. I go, what the? I look, I don't care what you say. That's just suspicious in its own. A 20, I think he was 23 at the time.
Yeah.
I'm like, damn.
The list of people that's not alive anymore that have been associated with them and are not alive because of crazy situations is ridiculous at this point. Like, it's huge.
Was it Van Halen that had the plane crash, or was it Leonard Skinner?
Leonard Skinner.
Imagine if you look at a photo of the Leonard Skinner band before they got on the airplane, and it's Bill Clinton like waving his hands to everybody, like, "Don't get on that fucking airplane."
He was like the valet or whatever. Like,
I mean, to be honest, if I gave you the example of like if a guy, your neighbor, has had 7 different wives and they've all fallen down flights of stairs. He keeps having to remarry because his wife keeps falling downstairs. Do you want to still live at that house? To be 100% honest with you.
I mean, I'd go there and make sure those stairs wasn't slick or something,
Just take the stairs out.
Put some carpet down, maybe. Like,
Well, she died on the patio. It's like, God damn it. You end up removing everything but the damn tiles on this house.
like I don't know. Like, the Clinton kill list is huge. The most recent thing about the Obama estate. Did you hear about their chef?
Yeah, that died, but I don't know what that was about, though. I don't know the full story.
Apparently, he the way I heard it, which I haven't got to do much research into it this past week or so, was he was paddleboarding in 8 feet of water, but he couldn't swim, is what they said. And so he drowned. 8 feet of water, like, yeah, 8 feet of water is over your head, but if you touch the bottom and jump, you can pop up and grab some air.
Yeah,
Like,
but if you're panicking, you're inhaling water.
that's true.
That's not that suspicious, but I think there was other circumstances with it that made it more suspicious, which is I think they were letting him stay at their home or something like that.
Yeah. Well, my thing about it is if you cannot swim, why are you paddleboarding in 8 feet of water?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Like, extremely good point.
Yeah. Like, I can't swim. I think I'm gonna go out on this.
But as a former jet ski guide, I can tell you the number of people that rented jet skis that couldn't swim that would fall into the water and scream for help. I'm like, why are you doing this?
But they got life jackets most of the time, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
You should have a life jacket if you're on a paddleboard,
Yeah, exactly.
especially if you
Like,
can't swim.
especially if you can't swim, you could at least float. I don't know. That one's really strange. I can't wait to read more into it. I don't know. I haven't had much time to do a lot of research over the past little bit. Most of everything I'm hearing now is like when we do episodes on it.
Me
Like,
and you should start a podcast about political assassinations. I can go all day about that.
that would be fun. Like, well, not fun. Well, I guess that would be fun for us, but pretty dark.
I mean, it's a dark subject indeed, but there's definitely a tool of political assassinations of the 60s and 70s. It's actually courses that are being taught in colleges and some high schools as well too, which is the whole 60s political assassinations. It was a tool of the government for a while of political assassinations.
I don't know why they cut that out. Is it just because it got too polarizing or something? Like, I don't know. Like,
Cut it out of what?
cutting out the political assassinations in America.
They didn't stop doing it.
When's the last one they did, though?
I mean, look at Epstein.
True. I get what you're saying. So they just got a little better at
It's
concealing
like
it.
Operation Mockingbird. Did that
Yeah.
ever stop? No, it didn't stop. The media is definitely still online, but the political assassinations, we just don't talk about it as much. I think people try and the only way you can really talk about things is if it's like 60 years old.
Yeah. Well, I guess that makes sense to me. Everything's just a little bit more refined now.
Definitely.
Like, well, we ain't shooting somebody from across the street now. We're just making it look like they might have done this to themselves.
Plus, people only care if it's like a celebrity or someone important. Like if Woody Harrelson goes up missing, then everybody's going to start suspecting some stuff.
I wonder how they pick that. Like, not even about the celebrities, about the citizens. Like, they'll key in on one citizen that has went missing. What makes them pick that person over the thousands of the other people that's went missing? You know what I mean?
I don't know.
Like the Peterson lady, when that happened, I can't remember her name. I know her husband's name. I can't remember it either right now, but the whole nation tuned into that murder. But that's happening across the nation at all time. I wonder what causes that.
What about Gabby Petito and that story about the missing influencer that was on TV for like 6 months during the whole Epstein stuff?
Exactly. Yeah. Ain't it kind of strange how they key in on these one certain things, run it constantly when there's all this crazy shit happening behind the scenes? Hmm. Like,
There's definitely a like a certain thing, like what was it, the Ghislaine Maxwell trial that happened, and then during when that was happening, it was also the who was the one rapper that his trial was going on at the same time.
rapper?
There was a
Uh,
singer that was trending at the same time. Their court dates were literally right on top of each other.
I have no idea. I did
Juicy
not hear
Smollett, that's what his name was.
Juicy about his line whenever he
Yeah,
got
with
attacked in
the
Chicago.
both those trials were happening at the same time, the Maxwell and that one. And I was like, wait a minute, you guys have a full year to plan these things out. You guys didn't want to space any of those out, and only one was televised.
Yeah. And I don't think she's even actually in jail. She's probably just chilling somewhere.
I just remember the article that came out that said she was on suicide watch. I was like, oh, that's how you know something's going to happen to you. And then
Epstein,
she's in an interview like, I'm not suicidal. I was like, yep, yep, start telling everybody right now.
well, I mean, Epstein, he was on suicide watch, but they were letting him go to the vending machine and raid it and having women come to his cell, and his lawyer was able to come in
Well,
there.
his cell, he was able to leave his, he only had to sleep there, really. There's only one day he had to be in there the full day, but the rest of the time he could go out on like work leave. And I'm like, what a job does he have?
Well, his job was
How does someone get an island?
his job was getting fresh people for high individuals. So I guess he had some important work to do. That's so crazy to me because what's happening with that? Like, why is that not being investigated more? Like they say they investigate it, but you don't hear anything about it.
Do you think it's the responsibility of the media to do that type of stuff? Because honestly, at this point, the only media that I would consider respectable is independent journalism. And I'm not even talking about The Intercept. I'm talking about straight up Substack people, people that are trying their being an investigative journalist now, anybody can do it, but there's not really an incentive to do it because you're not going to get the major publicity you need. You know what I mean?
I think we're still. It really feels like we're in a situation where people are trying to get that to come back because independent journalism is kind of on the rise. Like people like us, for instance, we listen to these people, we read it, we see what they talk about and things of this nature, and we
I
kind
wouldn't call myself a journalist of the Kennedy assassination, but I've definitely um, got a lot of things recorded that a lot of people are very appreciative for.
well, you delved into it really hardcore, and you've spoken with a lot of people, and that is investigating. And like you are that person, like
Even finding phone numbers and trying to call people up to get them to be able to do
you should
certain.
have called the White House, been like, "Hey, I'm just calling
I did
the."
get an email from RFK Jr. a couple days ago, so
Really?
yeah,
Wow. What do you think
he's
about
seen some
him?
of my. I'm not gonna probably end up voting for him unless I could talk to him.
Yeah.
I need to know a person before I get. I don't. I don't vote in general, so
My one thing against him is his stance on gun control, but I fully understand why he has that stance. You know what I mean?
I mean, yeah, I mean, his dad and his uncle were killed,
Yeah,
and his
exactly.
cousins. So
Yeah. Yeah, I fully understand it. I just don't like it.
What do you think about those subjects? If we get into the conspiracy realm, what do you think about, like, if you could pick a conspiracy, what conspiracy would be your bread and butter?
Right now, it's the Tartaria stuff.
That's not a conspiracy. I mean, the big governmental ones.
Oh, big governmental ones. I mean, the ones that's turned out to be true.
9/11, JFK, RFK, MLK.
Well, I mean, everybody started off with JFK. That's probably still my biggest one because I still like to know for sure. I've got a good idea, but
You're
I
not
won't.
going to get an answer. I'm sorry about that, buddy. They just recently disclosed that they're not going to release any more documents that they got remaining. So a 60-year JFK act that has literally been installed to release all these documents has ended, which is like, damn, imagine being someone that was waiting for these documents to release. And I've talked to these people and they're like, it's fucking heartbreaking.
Now RFK knows. I'm pretty sure. Like I heard him
Junior?
talk about, yeah, RFK Jr.
I
Like,
mean, he knows about as much as I do, blaming it on the Central Intelligence Agency, but you can't, you're not going to get the answer. That's the sad part. If there was a second shooter, the time to find him was at that time, and they eliminated conspiracy within 48 hours.
that's true. But RFK, I heard him talking, RFK Jr., sorry. I heard him talking about his dad and how he was killed. He said it was the guy that was walking him through the kitchen that shot him. Like he knows for a fact.
Eugene Caesar.
Yeah, like he knows for a fact.
Everyone suspects it to be that guy because that guy went to the Philippines. But the clip-on tie, there, what I thought was RFK's tie, the media cropped it out, but the front picture where he's laying down on the ground. I've recently been talking about the RFK assassination. I dived into that one. But when he's lying on the ground, the bus boy's holding him. There's a clip-on tie on the floor, but in the original covers of the photos that they published, they cropped out the tie. Well, the tie is Thane Eugene Caesar, who was behind Robert Kennedy. So if he fell backwards after getting shot and grabbed a tie, it was Thane Eugene Caesar's tie.
Wow. That's
So
so crazy, man. Like, and at this point, it's easy to find that. And like his son talks about it, like he's told about it by people that were there that this happened. And
the most convincing thing is Paul Schrade, who was the cop who was shot in the head um over RFK. He's still alive. He lived. I think it was like a one of those, just it was an impact thing, not a like, didn't go into him. It just kind of bounced, and so he was bleeding on the ground. Everyone thought he was dead, but he died recently a couple of weeks ago, which is why I got interested into the RFK assassination. Um, not a couple of weeks, a couple of months ago he died. But he went to every single one of Sirhan's trials and parole hearings and said that this person did not shoot at me and did not kill my best friend. So that's the guy who got shot in the head. Now, did Sirhan shoot people? I believe that some of the bullets, obviously, he did hit some people, but I think there was a second person who was aiming for or did hit Robert Kennedy, because that's Thomas Noguchi, who did the autopsy. Most thorough autopsy in history, man. That's recorded. That's a historical thing. He's the most, like, he did a 36-page report on the RFK autopsy. And he said that based on the gunpowder residue on the back of RFK's head, Sirhan's in front of RFK, that this had to be 3 shots up close. So that's why everyone thinks it's Thane Eugene Caesar.
well, I mean, they have the patsies or whatever, which is Sirhan and Lee Harvey Oswald. I believe they probably did take shots too. Like I believe Lee Harvey Oswald probably took a shot,
Yeah,
but I feel like they always have a backup plan just in case they miss.
100%. You don't bring 4 bullets to kill the president of the United States. And that's what Lee Harvey Oswald did. So it's like, there's no way. Why would you reload if you saw his head explode like that?
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
Of course, you send more than one person up there to do something like that.
may he rest in peace, but I think Bill Paxton did it when he was a kid. No, I'm just joking about that. That is strange though that he was there. You know what I mean?
I
Like,
mean, George Bush was there.
oh yeah, and apparently it was loaded full of people. The Bagushka lady, Bagushka,
Bagushka lady, and then Nixon was there as well too. But Nixon was at a bottling convention. Apparently, that's what he said.
the Bagushka lady or whatever her name is. She was a Rothschild. Like people have found her
There's
recently.
so much of that now where I'm like, I don't know. Like, everyone seems to be related to someone in the CIA, or someone knows somebody in the CIA, or someone has a Nazi connection or something like that. Where I'm like, dude, I don't even, I just need proof. And nobody's been able to show proof. It's like people have been able to look in and the conspiracy theories really start to spread. But one thing that I heard that I had to look up and I did find, which was the owner of the book depository building, replaced the window in the sixth floor after the assassination happened. And he would invite people over to his house and show them that he had the window in his house. And they would take pictures in front of it. And that's got like a big Texas oil guy right there. So I was like, that to me is just, it's not even that it's just corrupting or weird. It's just like, that's so fucking sick to do. Where it's like, why would you do that, you demented bastard?
True crime, man. I mean, the macabre brings everybody to the yard. You know, it's kind of like the milkshake. Like, I mean, I went to the Alcatraz Museum last year. I loved it. You know, seeing all this weird shit from serial killers and just crazy stuff like that. I don't
Wait, you
know.
went to Alcatraz?
No, it's a Alcatraz Museum. It's in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee.
Do you okay, can you, do you travel a lot to go to these paranormal like places or anything like that you ever hear about? Like, do you actually find that fun? Like, I want to go on a paranormal trip. My buddy's a paranormal investigator and he lives in PA, so he's not too far from me, but they go to all these conventions and actually haunted houses and spend the night there. And I was like, damn, I actually might want to go to one of these one time.
Well, we don't have to travel far, fortunately. Like that museum is 2.5 hours away, maybe two, depending on how fast you drive, or if you take the back way. There's a paranormal museum 35 minutes from me, like where you can go and walk around, look at all kinds of weird shit. Like, I don't know, it's and haunted houses in this area, and I guess it's all around the South. There's this common theme where you find these old Victorian houses at crossroads everywhere. It's kind of strange. Like, there's one in my hometown that's called the Chestnut House, and they've opened it up recently as a paranormal investigation place and stuff. It's kind of strange how it happens. The very first intro of Wearing the Folk, you can see an old Victorian style house with a bunch of vultures on the roof. That's actually a picture I took of one. Like, I didn't edit it or anything. I just made it black and white.
I'm not afraid of ghosts, but I'm still not going to say Bloody Mary 5 times in a mirror with
Oh,
the lights off.
hell no. I was watching South Park the other day, and they was doing a Bloody Mary type thing on one of their episodes, but it was Biggie Smalls. I thought about doing that one.
Mm.
You say Biggie Smalls 3 times, and he appears.
I do. I think that's a bucket list thing for me is to go on one of these paranormal things. I watch my buddy's videos and I've had him on the show, like show some of the footage that they got. There is some stuff and he doesn't add anything in there. And that's why I say you can like independent journalism is probably the most trustworthy. The people that don't have giant shows that aren't produced like that are the people that you should really go towards. So it's like, that's probably something maybe more believable than what you would see on X-Files or something like that. Cause you got to think you're getting spending what, $2 million to go do a paranormal show or something like that. You spend all this money on one trip. It's day 6. You're there for 7 days. If you ain't getting anything by day 6, somebody's putting on a fucking sheet and cutting some holes in it, and they're gonna fucking try and find some shit.
Well, the sweet thing about where I live, we live in like an epicenter of strange haunted areas. Like the Bell Witch Cave, for instance, is like 2.5, 3 hours away from me. Um, let's see, there's a graveyard in Elizabethtown, Kentucky. It's about an hour and a half away. They have sightings during the day there all the time, and like there's a certain gravestone that moves and everything. Like, it's all kinds of crazy shit. There's another place in Pikeville that I've actually been to. Is a woman that was buried alive, and her gravestone is a life-size statue of her. And they say every once in a while the gravestone will turn and face the hotel where she lived. I've been there. Like, there's all kinds of crazy stuff. We're actually getting ready to start doing like paranormal investigations like that. We're just getting the equipment together right now.
That's interesting.
We used to do them all the time when we were kids, but you know, back then we didn't have YouTube and stuff. We just did to be doing it.
Do you get asked to be on a lot of shows?
No, not really.
Okay.
I've been asked to be on a couple. I just don't go on them.
You're
I
very
go,
open and speaking about, at least on mine. I don't remember us ever hesitating to talk the very first time. We talked a long time ago, very first time.
yeah, it was a long time ago. No, I don't have any issues with going on anybody's shows, but there's some that I just don't have time. Like us, we usually have to do it on the weekend because of work.
You still
You
make the time for me though. We end up talking for like 3 hours most of the time.
know?
I don't do shows, and I've been asked recently to be on a lot of very like the sixth floor museum, which is the book depository building. They wanted to interview me, and then I've been asked to be on a JFK podcast, couple of JFK podcasts, and then I think recently I was asked to be on a government show, not a government like funded show, but a very conspiracy like it's a by this publishing company that does is hosted by a guest I had on. He wanted to have me on there and one of the lineups with like some top names and things that I just don't have anything to offer. Um, Mostly because I can only like I can tell you stuff that I've learned and things, but I just don't. I'm not an expert. I mean, I'm definitely more classified. Like I'd call. I think a lot of people would consider me a historian on certain subjects, but I just for me, I'm just not the type to be on an interview platform like that and try and do it like that.
Well, I mean, find the ones that you think you would want to. Like, you're a great conversationalist. Like, you'd be good on anything, really. I would suggest doing it. Why not?
I
You
just
know?
like when I do like for me like if you're an interview person, I'm not an interview person, but I just like the build up that a lot of people don't like. Like people just want the facts. They want like not when I mean not the facts. I mean they just want the things that they've already can find anywhere else. I don't want that. I want the other stuff. Like what was it like when someone called you up to go to their house to go interview them about this? That's what I like. Like the background stuff behind stuff. Like I forgot I was listening or I was talking to someone. He's probably when we're recording this, he's the newest episode. He's third oh no, 1470. So he went and interviewed Margaret Oswald and got to know her personally. And then he also interviewed Jesse Curry, who was the police detective that was in Dallas police when the Kennedy assassination happened. Now, the interesting part about that one, and this brings up a weight for the Oswald scenario, which is a lot of people said that Oswald was on the second floor drinking a Coke. That's kind of how the official story is after running down 4 flights of stairs after taking the shots. Within 30 seconds, he did that and wasn't out of breath or anything. Um, but then some people believe that he was on the front, like the first floor, and that's what makes the picture of him on the steps, which everyone either says Bill Lovelady. I'm very agnostic on that. I don't think it was him, but I just this is a controversial subject. But when this guy talked about interviewing Jesse Curry tells him to turn off his tape recorder, and then he goes, "Did you ever have doubts about Oswald being a lone killer?" He goes, "The moment I had doubts about Oswald being the lone killer was when the second time they brought him into the interrogation room and they say, like, Oswald tells them that I was on the second floor or no, first floor. And you can tell because there were two African American women there and they saw me there. So they go and interview the two African American women, which I don't think that guy was telling me his memory might have been a little hazy. There were two African American people there, but they weren't women. They were guys. And so it starts to make a lot of sense what he's telling me. But you got to remember, this guy interviewed him when he was in his 20s, and when I talked to him, he was in his 70s. So it's like something, this was back like way a long time for him to remember this. But he goes, when Jesse Curry was standing in there in the interrogation room, they go, we talked to those two people, and they said they never saw you there. He said at that moment, Oswald stood up and said, "Then how did I know they were in there?"
Yeah, exactly.
And Jesse Curry, the police detective, said he had doubts ever since that day when Oswald said that. And it was like, so you get a guy like that, and I get goosebumps talking about it. But for me, that was like a big thing where I was like, holy, he's right. But then also learning about Margaret Oswald, I mean, every reporter put her through the fucking ringer, either called her crazy. David Lifton, a bunch of people that are well recognized, like Best Evidence, the autopsy stuff, really didn't. I mean, they kind of used her, and she might have been a little unstable, but you got to think she is a mother who just lost her kid. And not only that, but didn't get to see Marina as much, didn't get to see the grandbabies as much. She lost her job. She was a nurse. She had to retire on a measly little bit of money where she still needed work. So it's like she had been through so much, and watching all this and people just drag her son's name through the thing. That's what I get as the empathy factor. I don't look at this as a profit thing of making money off of, understanding or interviewing people about the assassination. I look at it like I would like to get some truth. I mean, if you did blacklist someone through history, I would like to understand at least the facts of the matter. And I think now we know that he wasn't just a lonely loser type. He happened to be associated and connected to a bunch of things.
Well, it's one of those things too. Like, there's a
Damn,
guy
I
we
ranted. I'm sorry.
no, you're good. There's a guy that we talked to named Darren Schaefer. He's on a podcast called the Cooper Vortex. All he talks about is DB Cooper. We've talked to him twice, and every time we end up with, "Do you ever think we're going to know?" And it's the same thing with the JFK stuff. He's like, "No, we'll never know for sure anything of what's happened." There's just so much out there about everything. Like, when I was a kid, I heard a conspiracy that JFK was murdered by, aliens because he was trying
That's
to.
the big thing right now. That's trending right now. Some dude who was on Alex Jones's show, who runs his own show, had put up an interview that he did with a guy who's on these JFK forums, and I've seen some of his work. I don't necessarily believe it, but was JFK about to release things about aliens, and that's why he was killed?
Is that really? Is that really?
So there's documents on him. JFK was interested in understanding what the UFO stuff was doing. But if you really want a president who was doing a lot when it came to like the conspiracy UFO stuff, that's Reagan for you. Ronald Reagan established a whole project based on trying to understand what these foreign phenomena were. JFK just had a couple documents on it. But if you wanted to pick the number of things that could have been a possible reason why JFK was killed, take your fucking pick. Marilyn Monroe stuff, anything like that. And I mean, look, JFK did LSD in the White House. There are girls and secret lovers of JFK that aren't really secret, but those girls happen to die as well too. So the number of suspicious people that did die after the assassination, I mean, a dude got throat chopped while stepping out of the shower, and that's the official cause of death. So if you tell me that's a mob hit, I'm gonna tell you I don't know a mob person that just knows how to chop somebody in the throat and kill them.
Death by karate chop. But like, I don't know, JFK too. Like, I kind of forgive his illicit drug habits because he was constantly in pain.
I don't think he was using it for pain, but he was just an experimental person. I think it shows. I mean, like, it's not, they can use drugs as a slander thing for him, but I mean, he was just a little bit more, like I said, when it comes experimental. I mean, everyone's taking LSD back then, why don't you just try it before you start saying that we need to ban this and make this the most, and the government ends up buying it all and then using it to experiment on people with. So it's like, that's how we get MK Ultra.
Yeah, that's exactly how MK Ultra started. They were giving it to like housewives to see what would happen, like just randomly, like, hey, take
Well, they
a.
were dressing up as hippies and drugging random people.
Yeah, that's insane. Like, and you you got to think about everything that they did that's came out to be true. Like the Gulf of Tonkin was true. The Tuskegee experiments.
I mean, that's look up just what there's been I had a guy on, a reporter for the New York Post, on about this because he wrote a book on it called Acres of Skin. This is a real law thing you can look up. I actually clipped it and put it on my TikTok as well too. But just look up pharmaceutical companies and prisoners. There's been unspoken agreements between people testing their pharmaceutical companies have been testing their products on prisoners. 24-year-old who used an experimental toothpaste and all his teeth fell out after a matter of 6 months.
Yeah,
So,
I mean
cutting off
that's
skin of people and spraying your perfume on it to see if it would corrode the skin. Like, that's an issue as well too.
it's amazing what we actually do as a human race just to try to figure things out. Like, when it comes to that stuff's horrific, but I kind of get where they're coming from. But why do it like that? You know what I mean?
Well, you could
Like,
pay these people, but you know what they do? They find people that we devalue as society. Prisoners are the first example, but that's the issue right now. If we continue to devalue everyone on their opinions, their political beliefs, and it just becomes this place of devaluing and calling people conspiracy theorists and nut jobs and then isolating ourselves even more, what happens if a van comes and picks up your neighbor? Are you going to give a shit?
no, I think I actually seen that the
Are you
other day.
serious?
No, I'm joking. There, apparently though, there's a lot of that happening around here, like people getting randomly picked up, like for sex trafficking and stuff.
That's a big issue as well too. They just posted a video. I think it was in Thailand or China, but they pulled over a truck and the truck had crates, and inside those crates were kids, and those kids were on ice. They were literally alive but sedated and on ice, and it was an organ harvesting thing that was going on.
That's so horrible, man. Like, I don't get it. Like, I don't understand it to the point. I don't see how somebody could do that to another person at all.
Why
Like,
don't you understand that?
I just don't understand what kind of mindset you have to be able to do that. Like, how do you get to a point to where you have the mind to where that's fine? There's no issues with that.
Alcohol helps.
I mean, I used to do my fair share of drinking. I never thought about harvesting organs.
I'm pretty sure it doesn't start easy for anybody, but I'm pretty sure after a while they become so normal. It's like mob people. You ever hear mob people talk about how they kill people? They talk about it like they're servicemen, talking about the number of people they killed defending their country.
True, true. I guess I could get that. And I guess if you throw hundreds of thousands of dollars in the mix and greed overtakes, and then it probably makes it a little smoother.
Have you looked up what your organs are worth?
My organs are not worth shit.
Dude, your organs are worth something. A standard cost for eyes, even if they're good or bad vision, is like $32,000 per eye. A testicle is like $400,000.
I'd give up a testicle.
Just one testicle.
I'd give up both of them.
That's what I'm saying. I was like, this is like, if you look at the organ, like the list is like crazy. Someone had put it on like one of those Reddits or something like that. I was like, is this real? There's actually a standard thing of like when they're teaching about organ trafficking, they talk about why these certain organs are always taken and most likely looked at because of the cost of those things.
Wow. I'd give up my left eye and a testicle. Yeah, for sure.
Would you replace them both, like switch them out, have a testicle for an eye?
That'd be funny, wouldn't it? No, I can't see shit on my left eye. They didn't have it. Like, but I'm getting ready to be 40 years old too, and so I ain't gonna need the bottom part either for much longer, probably.
What are you talking about? You can still have kids when you're 72. Look at Robert De Niro.
I don't know. But like there's a place in where I come from in Oneida, and they have a little club called the DPS Society. It's the Dead Pecker Society. I'm hoping to join them one day.
Bunch of Ken dolls over there.
Pretty much, just a bunch of old men sitting around a campfire, hating life. That's what it is. But I want to ask you about this because I don't think this was a thing last time we talked. What about them wanting to reanimate these mammoths in Siberia?
Mammoths?
Yeah.
Oh, that article came out a long time ago, man. It's like 5 years old.
Well, now they're actually working toward it.
Called the Praetorian Park or whatever they called it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're actually working toward it now, and they've actually started trying to make lab-grown mammoth meat for consumption.
Why does it always go to food?
Because we're a hungry people, predatorial.
You got to, dude, if you look at NASA's budget, it's like 42 or $46 billion a year. And we're only, I think I looked at it last, it was like 46 billion, and that was only 8 months in. So they're still getting more. But I go, we could have solved homelessness and starvation.
Yeah. Well, NASA is the biggest money laundering thing, like corporation I've ever heard of. Like, if you want to give somebody, I'll say $500,000 to kill somebody, you go to NASA and you buy a toilet seat from Walmart for $20 and say, "Oh, this cost us $500,000, $500,020."
That was a movie. I forgot what movie that was. Independence Day. Independence Day.
Is that real?
The father said something when he walked in the UFO hangar and they had the UFO ship there before they got in. And he's like, "What do you think that NASA was just spending all this money on toilet seats?"
But that's true. Like even wrenches and stuff. Like I think I read one time they spent $8,000 on a 4-way screwdriver. Like
reanimating things from the dead. Or old prehistoric things. Would you think the people would accept it as regular, like as it was accepted if it was just natural birth, or do you think people would be hesitant?
I feel like people would be hesitant about it. I'm not really for it, honestly. Like it'd be cool to see, I guess. I don't see like the implications of like an animal, I guess. Like I'd be more worried about recreating plant life, like pulling old seeds and growing that now, just because it could be like a invasive type of plant life, kind of like kudzu in a way.
Depends. Are we talking about, like, obviously there's two questions here. There's a line of reanimating prehistoric things like dinosaurs. But what happens if we just reanimate things that have just recently became extinct? Eventually, if there's no more polar bears, would you be okay with reanimating a polar bear? because you know what that is. You experienced it, at least in your lifetime it was alive.
Well, I'm not very fond of polar bears. I hear they're very aggressive.
Damn
So
right they are. But they look cute splattered in seal blood, don't they?
yeah, like, but they're one that's going to actually just convert into crossbreeding. They're just going to keep breeding with grizzly bears and just be bigger and more aggressive. Yeah, these grizzly bears that they're huge, they're massive, and they're aggressive as shit. That's basically what's going to happen to polar bears. I think that's going to happen with a lot of things. It's kind of like the lemur or whatever from Dynamite, whatever his name was, Napoleon Dynamite.
The only issue I have with that is that I know in the beginning we'll be hesitant to it, be like, oh, it's not a real animal because we just recreated it. But I'm like, yeah, but doesn't that open up the door? Like eventually, those people that would believe that way are either going to change their opinions or they're going to die because they just die off, and then future generations are going to be looking at it like, oh, this is how this is. These are just they're going to be normalized to it, and then eventually, does that lead into humans being bred that way?
Well, I mean, it's a difference on does birth matter? Does like growing something within a living human actually matter, or can it be created in lab and will it be the same thing? Like with humans, there's always been, like, going back to the soul, there's always been a thought that the way we get our soul is that we grow within a body and then we're pushed out and part of their soul becomes our soul and it grows. So if you're created in a lab, would you have a soul or would you just have a bunch of NPCs walking around? Which I feel like we have a bunch of NPCs walking around anyway.
I
So
just don't think people have their fucking brains on half the time. Um, but no, artificial wombs are real. I mean, if you can use the egg and then the whatever cells from the father as well too, then you can still have the baby like a normal person. But it's just we wouldn't have to see. That's a controversial subject, but that's also one where I'm like, I don't know where I would stand because if you can have a person not go through 9 months of change and then agonizing pain at the ending of it, and then just to get this baby. I'm like, what happens to all the people that could be saved from dying at giving birth? You know what I mean? Like, I would have to bring that. Like, there's a number of people out there. I have, known people in my life that have lost a loved one from giving birth. So it was like, I think they'd still like their partner to be around with them.
that's fair. And another thing about it that could be potentially seen as a good thing eventually is it could remove any kind of defect too, like
That's the issue, though. There's always the overstep, which is the fact that once you start eliminating issues, people go, what would you like to add? What can I do? You want your son to be really good at basketball? Sure. Want your son to be like 7 feet tall? Sure. Want your son to have a size 15 shoe? Sure. And it's just like eventually you start going blue eyes. Yeah. And then next you know, you have this whole it starts turning into eugenics.
that's exactly what it's going to be. If they ever start doing it, it's going to be eugenics for
They have
sure.
they have to offer up like if you get one thing, you have to take something away. So he's gonna be really funny, but he's gonna have one eye. It's like, damn, do you want that? I don't know. And it's like, damn, I'm gonna have a pirate for a son. He's gonna be funny as shit, but he's gonna be one-eyed.
What if that's the afterlife, like in the reincarnation, or like you're allowed to pick some attributes and you kind of gotta go through it like a D&D sheet, like you get so many points that you can apply to certain things.
The only attribute I want is to be able to eat as much ice cream as I want and have endless ice cream and never gain weight.
Mm, I want
That's my
fly.
heaven. I'll sit there watching a sunrise over and over again, just eating a bucket of Ben and Jerry's.
Mine would be I would want to remember everything I read, like verbatim.
What?
Yeah, like
What's your idea of heaven? I don't know what heaven is. What are you conceptualizing as heaven? Is anything you could possibly want?
I really just would like to be able to remember everything. You know what I mean? Like everything I've ever read, essentially. Like I have trouble remembering names. Like the older I get, the less I remember. You know what I mean?
Did I change my name at the bottom so you can't look and see what my name is?
No, I remember your name. I got it pulled up right here.
I'm about to say the guitar player just died. So
What was that?
the guitar player,
Who's that?
Robbie Robertson.
Oh, I didn't even know who that is.
That's about to say he's a famous guitar player, just recently passed away. But my whole life, since my name is Robbie Robertson, like, are you related to the guitar player? Dude, the number of people that sent me a message when he passed away,
Wow. I
and
don't know.
like some people with dark humor, they're like, there can only be one. And then some people that would message me and saying, oh my God, so sorry to hear. And I'm like, oh, what, like, why? It's not me.
I don't know. Like that's an idea. Have you ever watched that movie One with Jet Li? I have the feeling that that might be something accurate. In that movie, there's alternate dimensions, and he goes through all these alternate dimensions, like killing his replica, like himself in these other dimensions. And each time he kills one, he gets stronger. Do you think that that might be a thing?
I
Like
hope not.
I have a theory that like deja vu, whenever that occurs, is like basically a time and place when alternate you passed away.
It's not a theory. It was in Doctor Strange.
Really?
Yeah, the new Doctor Strange that came out.
Damn it. I haven't
That
watched.
that's what they said that whenever you die in your dream, it's because it's a alternate universe self of yours. It's you're experiencing that last few minutes.
In the dream. Yeah. Oh, damn it.
It's a good theory. I mean, it could be possible to scare the shit out of me.
I haven't watched that
I don't
anymore.
dream that much though, so there must be like I must be a rare thing in alternate universes.
I don't dream much anymore either, but you know, they always say that even though you can't remember them, you still dream. I feel like I don't. Do you have that feeling?
I don't think that's true though. I don't think you dream every single time.
I don't need.
Like for me, I don't hit my third REM cycle because of my ADHD. So it's a reason why I never get hangovers. I don't actually hit my full resting sleep mode. I just have an unnatural REM cycle. Now that's a very small portion of the population. I think it's like 0.001% of the population has that. So it's still like undetermined if I even have that. I have to go in for sleep tests on it. But I've explained it to sleep scientists and they've like said like that's will be like would be rare if you had that. There's nobody basically there's like four people on the planet that have that. But I just think my ADHD, I only like when I sleep, it feels like 8 years, but I'm only sleep like 20 minutes sometimes. So I don't ever really dream, but I've explained dreams on the show before that have been super intense. So if that's a real thing, a theory that that's an alternate dimension to me, I feel so fucking bad for whatever that alternate dimension is going through because those dreams are insane, man.
That's wild. I don't know. Like I don't sleep a lot either. Like I sleep maybe 4 hours a night. Um, but like I don't recall dreams much either. The one I have reoccurring dreams though when I do have them. One of them is just me stuck in a house, and there's like somebody in the house trying to kill me, but the house is floating down a river.
Damn.
Yeah, I
You're
don't.
being killed and worried about flooding issues. That fucking sucks.
Yeah,
Wait, who's trying to kill you?
I have no idea. I don't know who it is.
Okay.
I just have this foreboding. I just have this feeling that there's somebody in the house, and I keep going into different rooms, just narrowly avoiding them every time.
Damn. So it's like the constant fear of you're about to be attacked, but then you just escape and then you're safe and then it comes back to fear again.
Yeah, but there's nowhere to go because you're floating down a massive raging river, essentially.
I want to meet the people that have the most positive dreams. I'm like, what the fuck are you guys doing with your life to make sure you get the positive ones? Every time I get one, it's like a nightmare.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I am. I do have another one where like I'm in like a place where the sky is always like orange, like tangerine, and like the houses are like look like little white bullets, like little white dome type things everywhere.
What was the bad part about that dream?
There's nothing bad about it. I'm just that's the other
Oh,
one. I've
okay.
only had two that's recurring since I've been a little kid, and that's one of them. I don't know.
Do you ever try and look into what that means?
I'm scared too. It's kind of like we talk to a lot of mystics and stuff, and I'm always terrified because they're always like, "I see your aura as this," and I'm always scared to want to come to me and be like, "I see your aura as this." They haven't yet. We did have one person that was on a message, and it was like, "I see colors and I see green and black around you. What does that mean? What have you been thinking about?" And I just didn't respond. I was like, I was like, I don't really want to
Have
know.
you ever got your tarot cards read?
Yeah, my buddy reads tarot cards, and like when he's halfway through it, and I was like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Oh, that's funny. I've had mine read twice on air before.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not down for it. Like I'm better off not knowing how bad of a person or
What
how good.
happens? What's the worst that's going to happen? You die?
No, I just don't want to know.
I always get like they're like you got the death card. I was like, great. Does that mean it's going to happen soon? They're like, no, it just means an ending to something bad or something around you. I'm like, so like what?
Yeah,
Like what's an ending to the whole thing?
that's I have had the death card drawn before, and I'm like, great.
He also said I was going to meet the love of my life. And then I was going to lose her. And I was like, wait, why? I was like, you just said she's everything I could possibly want. He's like, yeah, but you're going to lose her. I'm like, but why? What happens? What's the one thing is you break up with her? I was like, why would I break up with this girl? And he described her. I was like, she's perfect. Why would I do it? And she had like a Boston accent. I was like, that's what I want is a girl with a Boston accent. Hell yeah. Um, I love it. Just if I piss her off, it's going to be even better because I love it when they start talking like that and they get all angry. But he goes, yeah, you lose her. I go, why? I go, there's literally nothing in the world that would make me break up with someone like this. And then like as I finished that, he goes, she was a white supremacist, and I was like, oh, that'll do it. That'll 100% do it. 100%. I'm not doing that one. No way, Jose.
Is that pretty prevalent in Boston?
I don't think so. I don't know why he tossed it out there, but it was definitely that's like my one red flag.
That's a pretty big one. I don't know that like
She could fucking spit on puppies. Still be the white supremacy one gets me.
that's something crazy, isn't it? Like we was watching a movie yesterday where it's called The Wrath of Becky. If you ever watched the original Becky, there's a sequel. In the movie, a dog comes out and gets hit with a baseball bat. I felt horrible. I was like, oh my God, that poor dog. 3 minutes later, a person gets shot in the head, and I was like, all right, like I didn't care. Yeah. What is that? Like, what has caused that kind of desensitization?
Well, it'd be different if a kid got shot.
Yeah, if it's a kid, animals,
it's because they can't defend themselves.
Hmm.
When you look at an adult, you kind of look at it different, even though we're all just babies that grew up.
Yeah.
We look at each other different. Like if we don't have a connection with someone, we see a grown man get shot in a story, like, oh, holy shit, I'm gonna like this and share this video. Maybe he shit himself. That's what you'll say on the video. But like if you look at like a kid getting shot or something like that, it's horrible. And it's just like it brings out a certain emotion to you because there is this I wouldn't say it's a parental thing inside of us, but there is a defensive thing inside of us that it's about, and we've been taught by that through society of protecting. Yeah. You protect elderly people, you protect, this type of stuff. That's usually ingrained in a lot of people's minds.
Well, the person that got shot was a old woman.
Yeah, okay, I don't know. I don't know. I feel like we just have different reactions when it's kids and when it's dogs, and like if you see a cat get killed, you just kind of go, eh.
Is it because they're so wild and can rip things apart?
Because for some reason, every single movie that makes you cry happens to be a dog movie, and every single thing that happens to be a kind of fear and scary happens to be doing something with kids.
That's weird.
Society has ingrained that into your system.
It's so strange to me how that works because I felt true emotion when the dog didn't even die. Like it just got hit with a bat.
Have you ever cried on a movie?
I have.
What movie?
Mr. Holland's Opus.
What?
Mr. Holland's Opus.
What is that?
It's just a movie about this guy that was a musician, but he turned into a band teacher.
Huh.
So, it's a pretty good one.
What made you cry about it?
It's just sad and emotional.
Okay. I almost cried at Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
I haven't watched it yet.
Oh my God, it's a tearjerker a couple of times.
I haven't watched many movies recently. The Wrath of Becky is the first one I've watched in a long time. I watched it last night.
I had to stop watching the St. Jude's ads because they were making me tear up.
I Am Sam. That one gets me.
That one.
My Girl. That one's sad. One. Really?
Marley and Me?
Marley and Me, yeah, that's horribly sad. Jesus. Oh my God.
Fucking Owen Wilson.
Yeah, Owen Wilson, even with his fucked up face.
he made some bank off that though, the broken nose.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Let's see. There's all kinds of those movies. As Above, So Below. No, I'm joking about that one.
If you could recreate a movie, like they let you like relive it, what movie would you want to do? The Titanic?
Like and beyond the Titanic, do I get on one of the lifeboats? Do you want
to get on the lifeboat? I wouldn't. I'd be freezing. I'd be like, just fucking end it.
I'm pretty woke. I feel like everybody's equal, so I'll definitely get on one of the lifeboats before a woman would. God damn it. I don't know. Like, I definitely wouldn't want to do a Titanic.
That's when everyone who is woke would be like, fuck that. Especially if you're like a woman or a child. You'd be like, hold on a second. I don't like the woke stuff now.
Exactly.
For me, I would just be like, I don't know. I mean, if we can all fit on it, great. But if I look at my life compared to someone else's, I kind of go, you know what? You guys go. You guys got a little bit more promise than I do.
If I
I'm
can be.
about two bad jokes away from a overdose in a fucking alley.
I think Grandma's Boy
That's a
because
great fucking movie.
yeah, because you work at a gaming place, you just run code all day and fix errors in games.
I hate your face. That guy had the best role in that. Him and Dodgeball were those two movies were like the perfect thing for his casting.
I do love dodgeballs. Dodgeball. Another Ben Stiller movie I really love. Have you ever watched Heavyweights?
Yeah, where he's a fitness trainer.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind being in heavyweights, being one of those fat kids running around doing stuff, you know.
That's where I think society went downhill is when we started doing celebrity rehab and then the world's biggest loser. We just profitized off people's pain.
Well, reality TV in general, I think, has helped with the steady decline. I swear I watched Idiocracy again not too long ago. And I was like, man, it feels like we're headed directly that way. Everybody's wearing Crocs now.
Did
Like,
one of the guys in the presidential White House in Idiocracy? He reminds me of Ron Jeremy.
yeah, exactly. He's the president, he's the secretary of
Defense?
it might have been defense. Yeah, I think it was defense. Yeah. But think about that, like in that movie, everybody's wearing Crocs. Do you own a pair of Crocs right now?
No, I don't want a fucking pair of Crocs since I was like 12 years old.
I own a pair. I wear them. Like, so, and then you got to think of like the people, like I've run into people that just don't know anything. Like I talked to somebody the other day that didn't realize the North and South had a war and called the Civil
What?
War.
When?
And this was about 2 or 3 weeks ago. It was one
They
of
had a
the,
war 2 or 3 weeks ago?
oh no, I'm
That's
talking
not
about like Civil War.
I know, I know.
I've talked to people that
Civil
thought,
Wars with Japan, right?
yeah. I've talked to people that thought Hawaii was off the coast of California, like you can see Hawaii from California.
I mean, it's really off the coast. Really off the coast, kind of damn near Alaska.
And I've like I was talking to a girl at work one time. This has been years ago, and I was like, she's like, well, I want to go Hawaii. I was like, I just don't feel like flying that far. She's like, well, you could take a boat to Hawaii. I was like, I guess you could. Like it'd take forever. She's like, it's just right off the coast of California.
Can you
I
imagine
was like, what do you think it is?
being in Hawaii and be like, how did we get cars here?
Yeah. Oh, Hawaii. Speaking of, have you seen these
Ship them all
fires?
down there. Yeah, Maui.
Yeah,
I have
dude.
family down there, so
Are they seeing like are they seeing like any beams of light causing the fires?
I
There's videos everywhere of that.
think everybody's more worried about their homes being destroyed.
I guarantee it. Man, it's burning cars and everything. Like what's happening?
I don't think it's conspiracy stuff, but definitely something happened. I mean, that whole island is it's all so jam packed together too, and it's nothing but brush. If you had a fire, it would be a really big issue. We just got to pray to God it doesn't. I mean, it's horrible for those people out there. I hope everyone's okay, but pray to God also that the Dole plantation doesn't get hit.
What's that?
The pineapples.
Oh,
You know how long it takes to grow a pineapple?
how long?
48 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we won't have any pineapples?
So they have fields upon, I mean, just miles and miles of just pineapples, 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 because it takes so long to grow them. So like one field's 1 year of pineapple, and they do all that. But Dole Plantation, I mean, that's Bob Dole. So that's the big Rockefeller connected government guy. If you really want to get conspiratorial about the stuff he's connected to, he's like
The
another
Canadian
Clinton
fire,
family.
yeah, the Canadian fires impacted us here. Did you get anything out where you're at?
Yeah, we got a lot of smoke. That was crazy.
That was nuts. It impacted us here. Like I walked out one day, I was like, man, it's foggy.
I
And
think
it
it
was just
impacted everywhere.
that's crazy. I wonder how that even happened. Like, there's been massive fires up there before. Like,
Well, this was like every single like it looked like I think someone put up a video of all of them catching at once. Like it all looked like it all started at the same time. It was like, how the fuck did that happen?
that is kind of strange. I've seen that as well. Like, I don't know the truth behind this, but I've seen helicopters dropping fire. Now that my friends that are within the conspiracy community are like, see, they're starting fires. I was like, well, they could try to be back burning too. Like, that's a thing people do.
Yeah.
Like they could just be dropping it here, trying to burn it back into the fire to keep it from burning more. But It's really strange that I've watched that video too. Like they had the sideline images of it, like showing different smoke popping up everywhere. I don't know that, but to see it impact so hard down here was crazy. Like I've never seen anything like that. Imagine when Yellowstone goes off. That's gonna be nuts.
That's like saying Beetlejuice. What the fuck's wrong with you? Knock on wood.
I don't know. There's a thought though that they might be trying to set off volcanoes in Hawaii with those energy weapons.
I don't know about that, but I think there's a lot of stuff that's called pre-mediated stuff that's happening, which all throughout the government history, like COINTELPRO is a good example. If you know what COINTELPRO is, the FBI was invading radical groups like the Black Panther Party. A lot of people think it's just systemic racism. They're like, oh, they're going and invading Black Panther Party. They're making them seem crazy. It is a little bit of that, but it's also they invaded the KKK. They invaded a bunch of things. They were really trying to stop groups that were going to be a threat overall to government power or with the way the direction the government was going. And at this time, it was J. Edgar Hoover's FBI. So if you look at what they were doing, everything was seen as like, this is going to be a problem a month from now. This is going to be a problem 2 months from now. So we should stop it now. And all the actions that they took were very drastic and horrible because they thought of this being a future problem to their threats or groups of power. So if you look at volcanoes, for instance, you know it's going to go off. You just know a time period of between this time and this time it's going to go off. Would it be better if we can just have it go off now before it builds up and becomes this big thing? To them, that's the most beneficial option.
Yeah.
So if they don't have the technology to solve it now, which surprisingly, we don't have anything that really alerts us when a volcano is going to happen. I've talked to a volcanologist who says, like, I watch this thing every day to see, she's in Hawaii, but I watch this thing every day to see if something is going to happen or when it's going to occur. But, one day I'm going to have to tell all these people they have to get up out of their homes and move when these things start going, everything starts going down. And a lot of people will not move. I've been here 40 years. Nothing's ever happens. That's what they'll say. So it's like we can measure when it's about to happen within like a day of the day, but we don't have anything to stop it when it happens. Our natural disaster, at least preemptive attacks, are just non-existent. We don't have anything to stop tsunamis. We don't have anything to stop earthquakes. We don't have anything to stop floods.
That's true. And I don't know, like there's a thing about disasters, like where I grew up, there was a gas well exploded dry across from my house, and they were afraid that it was going to blow up the whole mountainside, and people just would not go anywhere. It's like, we'll see what happens. I don't know what that kind of mindset's weird to me. Like when it happened, I was like, we gotta get the hell out of here. Like we gotta go somewhere. And my dad's like, it'd be all right. Like,
that's how my grandpa was when I think that giant hurricane came like 7, 8 years ago. I had to be in middle school, so it had to be a lot longer than that. Probably 10 years ago, 11 years ago. I think it was Hurricane Sandy. Was it Hurricane Sandy? Another one really tore up. Like they shut down my whole town. Everyone had to evacuate and everything like that. But my mom just grabbed me, grabbed my grandmom, and grabbed like my brother and everybody and went all the way up to Pennsylvania, which is like 4 hours away. That's nothing but mountains. So we were away from the coast where it was going to do the impact. And my grandpa was like, I'm going to stay here because I got work in the morning. And it's like, I was like, God, I want to fucking do that. I don't even know why I went. I guess it was a reason to not have to, like, I don't know,
deal with it.
go up to Pennsylvania. I guess we stayed at a hotel that we usually stayed at when we went snowboarding up there. So I was like, oh, there's a pizza spot there. I want to go have that pizza again. It's been a while. So I was like, maybe I'll just go with them. My grandpa stayed, and then my dad is the only person that stayed in Ocean City with some local business owners, and he stayed on the radio the whole time. Yeah, my dad got a number of gift certificates and cards and stuff like that, free meals to all these restaurants down here because nobody stayed. Everyone evacuated. The whole first floor of everything flooded. My dad had to park his car on the 5th floor of a parking garage, and he just slept in the radio studio, stayed on the radio for everybody. And everybody was so appreciative of it, which is pretty cool. But that's shit I would do too.
Yeah, why not? I don't know, man. And the disasters that's happening now are just getting worse and worse. Like when we had our windstorms here, I've never experienced anything like that. Like I'm a pretty big fella, and I'd walk outside and it'd about knock me over. It's crazy. Like we was getting
You just
wind
got to get
gusts.
some furniture that goes up and fucking down. Like Robin Williams says, get some styrofoam shit.
It is wild. I don't know, but this world we live in is getting crazy, man. I don't know.
Just don't blame it on the climate. That's making it even worse. And throwing paint on a painting is not making anything better.
No, no, I don't really. Climate change, yeah. Climate change happens. It's happened since the
Forever.
beginning of time. Yeah, like I'm sure we have a little bit to do with certain aspects of it. Like pollution definitely has, impact on the earth. Like microplastics are everywhere at this point. Like in a thousand
I
years.
think I just don't believe the people that said that they're trying to stop it and that advocate for stopping climate change by trying renewables. They're not doing anything to really change anything. They're just fucking saying it and hoping people go, okay, I'll still buy your product.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, well, we drive electric cars that we have to charge at these charging stations that's ran off the electrical grid, which is ran off coal. Like, like a good
It's
job.
like the whole LGBTQ movement thing, like all the companies that switch their profile pictures to rainbow flags. Do you believe that shit? Like, I don't believe them for a minute. They just want to make sure they don't lose you as a customer. Chick-fil-A stood strong though. They're like, we're staying by our old Christian ways. Tell you that much, and you're still gonna buy our chicken sandwiches.
My thing about that is they're doing it at a point now to where I think most people are pretty accepting. Like it's something that I don't even when I see somebody that lives an alternate lifestyle than I don't really even think about it.
Yeah, nobody does. And the issue is that when these corporations start like putting it on their front page, and it's like, just be a business. You don't even have to acknowledge anything. Nobody's acknowledging anything. We're just kind of living our lives because everyone's already in a shitty situation. So nobody's going to be, I mean, sure, there's people out there that are trying to stop some of it. I see most of the skeptics, all those people that are like, say that they're truth people and they try and debunk everything. There's all of them are anti-trans, every single one of them. And I'm like, where's the trans movement? Get on these people. Stop dealing with all these people are the debunkers.
Yeah, like I don't know, like even when it comes to the trans community, like do you, do you? Like I forget the comedian, but do you, boo? I guess it was Cat Williams. I don't care. Like I've got my own things going on. You're a person, you got your own things going on. Who cares? It shouldn't even be a thing. People's like, and everybody's acting like it's a new thing. It's really not. Like people in Rome, like men dressed as women in Rome because it was more comfortable. Like it,
You just got to be careful because there were also kings fucking 13-year-old dolls
sure.
back in the day. So be careful with that one.
Well, I mean, I don't agree with that at all. However, in this area where I grew up, like I think my grandpa was 29 and my grandma was 14 when they got married.
Jesus.
Yeah.
That's like Elvis Presley.
That was in the early 1900s, like it was pretty common up until then. I
I don't,
don't
everyone's got different morals and beliefs. I think the only thing you can do is try and control you and your own, I guess.
yeah, I don't agree with it, but I mean, that's something that just happened a lot until pretty recent in history. Like, I don't know. I don't see how that was a good
I mean,
thing,
my
but
buddy's marrying a 36-year-old and he's only 25. So,
well, see, that's not that bad. 36 is
plus
the
we
new,
look different when it's a woman marrying a younger guy.
yeah, well, 36 is the new 12, right?
Jesus Christ.
If everybody's going to live to be 150.
That's true. Uh, damn it. I don't like where this conversation is
No,
going to.
no,
No, Cecil, you giving me enough of your time, and we've been talking almost 2 hours. Actually, no, we've been talking 2 hours.
All
Um,
right, sweet.
coming up on the point. Unless you got anything else you wanted to hit on your subject list you brought.
Nah. I really wrote here was aliens and AI.
That was it, really? Okay, that was what I was planning on talking about too.
But as always, it's fun. I'm a little off this week, but next time hopefully I'll bring more stuff next time.
I don't
And
think you were off. I thought we had a good chat.
well, I always have fun talking to you. That's the reason I always come back anytime you ask me to. So
Thanks, man. It makes me feel special.
you, you need to
I
come on. You need to come on Weird Awakenings or Wearing the Folk sometime.
I do gotta check out your guest list because I am interested in talking about some certain subjects and stuff. But you gotta send me your at least some guests, good episodes you might think you know what I like. So you probably send me some good recommendations. We'll talk about it off air. But where can people find your links, man?
So Go to wyrdrealities.net. That's the website for the Wyrd Realities network. And you can find Wearing the Folk on BitChute, Rumble, and any audio platforms. And it's Where in the Folk.
Okay.
And Wyrd Realities Network though has several podcasts that are awesome, like Watching Weird. They do movie reviews. Let's see. There's so many of them right now. I can't remember. You can find everything at the website though.
I'll link all those links in the description. It's been a pleasure chatting with you. And thanks everybody for listening to this episode of Out of the Blank. Stay tuned for our next episode.